Singaporeans. My name is Cai Ling, it's Marcus and Daryl, and today we'll be presenting on the topic of LGBT equality. So, just to share with you guys, 2 weeks ago, my close guy friend actually came to me about his sexual orientation during his 31st York birthday party. We were close friends since secondary school, and I've always suspected him to be gay due to his obvious lack of interest in girls, but this news actually turned into a heart-to-heart talk where he started to share with me about his parents' disapproval towards his sexual orientation. Out of shock and anger, his father actually chased him out of his house and his parents have refused to speak to him since. It was definitely a very timely sharing, as it is actually extremely relatable to this presentation. It got me thinking how many people around us are actually gays, and does it pain them as much as my friend to be considered as an outlier of the society? Many would have thought that a cosmopolitan society like Singapore that is already accepting of different races and religion will also be accepting of gays. But do you know that 78% of Singaporeans actually think that sexual relations between a same-sex couple is always wrong? And 73% of Singaporeans completely opposed to gay marriage. Discrimination against LGBT is in fact more rampant than we thought today, and it is therefore important for us to promote equal rights. There are many ways in which gays are being discriminated. LGBT experience discrimination on a daily basis in the society. Just to share with you guys some of the interviews with several people who have came out of their closet. For example, Audie, a 27-year-old Malay guy, shared that you will be discriminated for anything. Your height, your job, your face, your weight, your skin color, your muscles, and how many guys you have slept with. If you're not a part of the cool plate, you stay in the rejects corner, in the shadow, ignored. Also, even under a sheltered environment, Jonathan, 20-year-old, is not spared from the teasing. I came from an all-boys school and everyone makes fun of gays. Unfortunately, what was supposed to be a pillar of support may also turn against them. It is often that immediate families will find themselves not being able to accept their siblings or children being gay. Quoting from the infamous Roy Nung, "My mom cried and went into denial for many years following my confession. How heart-wrenching is it to know that your family does not accept who you are?" Other than the daily discrimination phase, religious organizations have also actively promoted anti-LGBT sentiments. In objection to the Pink Dot movement that has been gaining momentum over the years, Red Light Movement was also organized by Christian pastor Lawrence Kong and hoped to promote traditional family values. Muslims were encouraged to dress in white when visiting mosques during the period as a sign of opposition to the increasing acceptance towards homosexuality. Moving on, during sexual education, homosexuality is covered only in one lesson in the lower secondary package. The lessons seek to inform students of the definition of homosexual and that homosexual acts in Singapore are in fact illegal. The direction of syllabus has already condemned homosexuality as an illegal act, putting gay people in a bad light. How is it possible for homosexuals to have a place in society where students are taught to condemn them? LGBT are also deprived of the opportunity to have a say in the media scene. The media in Singapore has disallowed neutral or positive portrayal of anything regarding the LGBTs. Does this book look familiar to you? Just 3 years ago, Singapore made the decision to destroy all of M. Tango Make's 3 books in the libraries. It talks about 2 penguins raising a baby chick, and it was deemed as inappropriate. Complaints were made, and as contempt was against city-state family values. Not only that, a kiss between 2 men was also removed during the staging of Les Miserables a few months back. The airing of Obama's speech on the Ellen Show was also edited out before airing, as Obama stated his support for LGBT community during the show. After sharing the several ways in which LGBTs are being discriminated in Singapore, I will pass on to Marcus to talk about the common reason why Singaporeans oppose to equal LGBT rights.
Thank you, Cai Ling. As Cai Ling mentioned earlier, members of the Singaporean LGBT community face discrimination even from their family and their friends. So why do they face this? Why do Singaporeans have this prejudice against the LGBT community, and why do they face this discrimination? They argue that LGBT relationships are immoral and they infringe upon the traditional family unit, and if concessions are made, there is a degradation of moral values that will occur in our society. So, talking about morality, it is greatly influenced by the religious teachings of the religions in Singapore today. 93.3% of Singaporean Muslims, 85.8% of Singaporean Hindus, and 84.5% of Singaporean Protestants actually completely opposed to same-sex sexual relationships between two members of the same sex, compared to 64.6% of people or Singaporeans who have completely no religion. Thus, this disparity can show that religious beliefs do have an influence in the point of view towards the LGBT community for Singaporeans. So, all major religions in Singapore, Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Hinduism, all denounce homosexuality and condemns homosexuality in their various religious texts. So as evident earlier said by Cai Ling, that the religious entities in Singapore actually lead the charge towards the opposition of LGBT rights. However, should this be the case? I do not think so. Singapore is a secular nation and should not have any religious influences in its legislation. Although they hold this point of view, it is not sufficient justification for discrimination towards the LGBT community. So I appeal to you, just as there is allowance and acceptance towards religious practices that differs from your very own beliefs, why can't this same sensitivity be extended to members of the LGBT community to give them the freedom to choose who they love? Although religion does influence their point of view, however, there is a more pervasive belief which opposes LGBT rights, which is the belief in traditional family values. The traditional family unit consists of one male, one female, and together they raise a child, and is supposedly the most conducive for the child's upbringing, and LGBT couples are unable to provide this healthy environment for their child. However, a study by the American Psychological Association has shown that there is no detrimental effects at all on the development of a child raised by same-sex couples. There are no additional complications regarding their gender identity or behavioral problems. Therefore, all of their worries are actually unfounded, and all families are equal. So, there is also this belief in the degradation of moral rights. If we make concessions for gay rights, it will set a legal precedent for other forms of marriages, such as incest and bestiality. However, other countries that have allowed gay marriage so far have not faced this so-called moral degradation. Gay marriage is very similar to heterosexual marriage, where it is between two consenting adults. Therefore, bestiality worries are unfounded, as animals are unable to consent, and incest has also a clear detriment, as the child is more prone to genetic defects compared to a child of a heterosexual couple. So last but not least, we plead to you that, like race or religion, one's sexual orientation or gender identity is a status and should not expose the individual to any discrimination. There have been resolutions passed by the United Nations to decriminalize homosexuality and enact anti-discrimination laws. This is in recognition of LGBT rights as human rights, and we should be making that same step forward. And with that, I'll pass the floor over to Daryl, who will end our presentation.
On the 26th of June 2015, the United States Supreme Court ruled the Constitution guarantees due process and equal protection under the law, providing same-sex couples the right to marry in all 50 states. On the 22nd of May 2016, Ireland backed same-sex marriage by a landslide in a referendum, marking a dramatic shift in the traditionally Roman Catholic nation. It's time for Singapore to follow the US, Ireland, Scotland, Sweden, Portugal, Iceland, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Slovenia, South Africa, Belgium, New Zealand, Finland, France, Greenland, Denmark, Canada, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. But before we can even begin discussing same-sex marriage, Section 377A of the Penal Code stands in our way. It saddens me that as a country we still hold on to such archaic practices which outrightly discriminates against a whole community of her own citizens. 377A stands opposed to the values of meritocracy that Singapore holds so dear. It encourages marginalization by denying the rights of a certain group of society from marriage, and most importantly, from the freedom to love. Furthermore, laws and legislation like this affects the attitudes of the citizens, as it demonstrates the country's and the government's stance towards homosexuality, that it is immoral, unnatural, and wrong. Yet, scientific studies have proven repeatedly that homosexuality might be linked to genetics and not a conscious moral choice that somebody has the capacity to make. How then is it right to institutionally ostracize a group of people based on their sexuality, which they have no control over? This is not a religious issue. It is not within your religious freedoms to deny others of their rights. Society should be governed by civil law and not by biblical values. It is not an issue that will threaten your personal life. How someone lives his or her life will not affect you in any way. So why should legal institutions put a definition to love and to restrict gay people to their expressions of love? The top-down disapproval of the government towards her own citizens has to stop. The state has said that they will not go out of the way to prohibit men from making love to other men. But saying that you will not proactively enforce the statute is not enough. However free they might be to lead their lives and pursue their activities in their private spaces, gay people will never truly feel free to love without the support of the state, of their families, and of their friends. Which is why we need you, as students of Singapore, to learn and become more aware of the issues surrounding the LGBTs in our country. As ordinary citizens of Singapore, to create a supportive environment for gay people to confide in and feel comfortable living in. And as future leaders of Singapore, to spark a national conversation that the 377A cannot continue to stand as fair law. So write a letter to your member of parliament, let him or her know your stance towards the LGBTs in Singapore. Spark a conversation within your community, in your classrooms, in your homes, talk to your friends and families. We must stop delaying the inevitable and stand on the right side of history, because ultimately, it's love all the same.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions? From the floor. No questions at all. So all of you were convinced by the speech.
Actually, I just.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do, what are you trying to convince us to do in this case?
Yeah. Just Marcus.
Because I feel that this goes way beyond us, and I'm not sure what you are trying to tell us. What it is.
I think it's not easy as students now to see how much of an impact you can make to the legislation and to the government of Singapore, but it begins with small steps, and we have to start somewhere, which is why we have to spark a conversation within our own groups of communities and let this conversation go, that the LGBTs in Singapore are marginalized and they need support from us.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
How are some of the ways that the state can help?
We can always start with as we said, we have to first repeal the Section 377A because it itself criminalizes homosexual acts. So as long as that law exists, we can not progress any further into allowing gay marriage, into allowing more equal rights or anti-discrimination laws within the workplace. So it all has to start with repealing 377A, and we have to decriminalize homosexuality to start with before we can make any further steps. So the government has to repeal 377A.
I think on top of that, right, what would be more feasible as of now for the state to do is that they can actually provide a more objective stance towards LGBTs, because in case, just to share with you guys, during the Pink Dot movement, right, the government actually released a press statement saying discouraging foreign companies from intruding into our own personal affairs. So it kind of discouraged them to sponsor the Pink Dot movement. So personally, I think we all feel the government should, even though there's the 377A law, right, they should at least try to be more objective when it comes to topics like LGBTs. Yeah.
I think that even if the government has initiatives to create counseling services, support groups for the LGBTs in Singapore, to the LGBTs in Singapore, it will be a bit contradictory because the 377A stands in a way. It shows the people in Singapore the attitudes of the government towards homosexuals and gay people in Singapore. So any initiatives to start support groups or counseling services has to start from the ground up. So before the government can do anything, it has to repeal the 377A.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I don't have like a question, but you know, like, cause like a few years ago there was like the Orlando nightclub shooting, right? So like, cause a lot of people were injured, so like a lot of the LGBT community wanted to like donate blood, but then the thing is, in all blood banks around the world, right, most of them they don't allow people. I feel if a man has sex with a man, you cannot donate blood. So I don't really know if it's like an LGBT right thing. I just want to ask like what you think about it, lah. I mean like because that means that even a lot of the countries that legalize gay marriage, right, they still like have this law where like, oh, you cannot donate blood if you have sex with a man. So like, do you think like it kind of infringes on their right, or like does it like imply that they feel that there's like a, because you know the HIV and AIDS thing last time, right? Yeah.
I think personally we don't really know like the scientific reason behind why the men who have sex with another man, right, is not able to like donate blood. But given this is my first time hearing such a law, and like at this point in time I just feel like it kind of really does sound like infringement of their rights, because after all they want to do it out of good intention. Yeah, but in any case where there's a scientific reason that to back up this whole law, right, then I guess it's justifiable. But if really it's just because like it's because of like discrimination, just because people don't like LGBT couples, then I think it's not justifiable.
I think that a lot of this law was born from the stigma that you get HIV from same-sex intercourse. Yeah, that's right. But we know that that's not true, and we know that this stigma came about because of the HIV epidemic in the US in the 19-something. Yeah. So I think a lot of this is guided on misfounded judgment on the LGBTs, on the gay people around the world, and that's not the only thing that is stopping the gay people around the world from their rights. Yeah, because so I think what we can do is really to start spreading truth and facts instead of judgment and stereotypes.
Okay, so first, I think there are actually statistical evidence to show that within the LGBT communities, prevalence of STDs and HIV is higher compared to other kind of communities. And I guess we don't know what the basis of the law is, but you can make an educated guess and suppose that there's a rationale behind that law to prevent the spread of diseases. But my question is, if, as you suggested in your statistics, that majority are against same-sex marriage, like not just in religious groups, but in Singapore it's like 60%, right? Even amongst free thinkers, right? How would you convince them then that?
Usually, I would think that the free thinkers would have the mindset that is more about, they are more geared towards the traditional family values, so they have these traditional family values and they believe in this traditional family unit, which is what I said earlier, that the traditional family unit actually is not the most conducive or is the best. Is that all family units are okay and that there's no detriment to any single family unit. So I would think that non-religious people will hold that belief, like about traditional family values rather than religious beliefs themselves. So to counter that, we have our points from earlier.
Perhaps popular opinion might not be the right opinion for the good of the country and for the good of the people. Because it might be a stretch, but when slavery was abolished, it wasn't a popular opinion. And if you wanted to stay in power, you wouldn't abolish slavery. But we now know that slavery is the total disregard of human rights, and yeah, we should learn from that.
Okay, alright, thank you. That's all.
Yeah.
We have the next